Welcome to Defund the BBC. My name is Calvin Robinson. With me today is my good friend Nick. Nick Buckley MBE has had a career both working as a charity leader and a local politician. He spent time on the Manchester City Council as a youth intervention officer, a position which in 2011 saw him tackle issues such as the 2011 Manchester riots. He's also been recognised with an MBE and countless other awards for his work on homelessness for the past 15 years. Nick has also stood as an independent councillor candidate in Manchester, and by the sounds of it, Nick is not looking to give up his political career anytime soon, so watch this space. Nick, thank you so much for joining us on Defund the BBC.
You're welcome, Calvin. Thank you for the invite.
Not at all, not at all. A few years back, the BBC moved a lot of their operations up near you to the Salford area in Greater Manchester. But despite this, people are still rightly picking up the fact that the corporation is stuck in a London bubble, isn't it? Why do you think that is?
I was and still am to some extent a big supporter of the BBC. You know, it's a national institution, it's known, around the world. I'm not sure what's happened to it, apart from what other people say over the last few decades. I was hoping it was going to change. I noticed differences since Brexit. And I've noticed differences since my turmoil in the summer last year. And nothing seems to have changed. And that's what stumbles me. So the answer to your question is, I really don't know. All that I do know is it seems at the moment impossible to change such a big organisation. It's an institution and it's stuck in its ways. And I'm not sure what we do about it.
Yeah. Well, as someone who has spent a great deal of time in their career working with people from deprived backgrounds, would it be fair to say that criminalisation of individuals for not paying the licence fee or, the poll tax, so to speak, is to criminalise them for being poor?
Yes. And if we're going to invent a system today, it wouldn't be created the way the BBC licence fee is set up today. It's outdated and it definitely needs change, and people have talked about it for a long time, for decades that I can remember. But I think we've come to a crux now of the licence fee. And in a day and age where we're banging on all the time about our human rights, to potentially, and we do this, send people to court and send people to jail for not having and not affording a TV licence for you to watch TV is mind-boggling. When we don't even send drug dealers most of the time to jail and violent criminals to jail. But if you don't give the government the money it's due, off to jail with you, that makes no sense in today's age.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And the BBC yet again recently came under fire for one of its presenters, Edith Bowman, breaching impartiality rules for tweeting out criticism of MSP's cross-examination of Miss Sturgeon and calling for more focus on the misuse of funds by Boris Johnson and the Conservative Party. The BBC on multiple occasions has been caught out for pushing anti-unionist rhetoric. Do you think this further breach in their charter obligation is mounting up the pressure to scrap the TV licence and call for a real change?
It is. They're constantly pushing significant proportions of the country down a one-way street of being anti-BBC, and the BBC should be impartial. And where they're failing is it's the culture. And what I would do at the BBC, I would implement a three-point plan: prevention, early intervention, and enforcement on all the staff and all the programmes. Prevention, make sure people understand what impartiality means, because it's obvious people don't understand. They think they do, but obviously they don't. Early intervention, where they monitor, the BBC's employees' Twitter accounts, and off the record, they pull people up and say, you were crossing the line a little bit here, there. And every month they send out examples to the staff, not naming people, but saying this tweet here crossed the line. And that's called early intervention. And then enforcement, they need to look at staff and they go, that was a complete breach. Here's a written warning. Here's a final warning. Out the door you go. And it's the only way to address any problems you have in big organisations, not just the BBC, but in society at large. That three-track approach is what's needed, but it seems no one has the guts to implement it because it seems they don't want to upset the staff.
Yeah, some actual action would be great. So, Nick, you faced calls for cancellation after you wrote an article criticising Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
Do you think the BBC has made a great effort to not only silence anti-woke voices, but also encourage minorities that only represent a small percentage of the UK to come on to speak on behalf of people that they don't even represent?
Oh, of course. Every time we have some sort of political program now on the BBC, most and Sky and other news outlets, and we have a black person there who's speaking on behalf of all black people, and we have a gay person who speaks on behalf of all gay people. And I know black people and I know gay people, and the people I know never agree with the views that are being espoused on TV. So they don't represent anybody apart from themselves, and maybe apart from a group they belong, if they're like-minded group. You know, that's a possibility. But they don't represent anybody else, because we're all individuals and we all have different independent thoughts and different experiences. And that's what generates individuality, is that experience.
I love that. The idea of treating people as individuals. Again, imagine it. Having worked in your community, Nick, and worked with young people, do you think the BBC is an organisation that is in tune with the real concerns of the youth today? And does the BBC do a great deal in actually serving them at all?
No, and it's not just the BBC. I'd say it's all mainstream media. Young people these days are not interested in mainstream media whatsoever. They live on their phones, they live on YouTube, and they live on other social media apps. That's where they get their news, that's where they're influenced, and that's where they just glean information from. The BBC has a duty to reach out to them. How they do that is a whole different conversation. You know, it's a whole new world we're in now. But they seem to pander. They seem to pander to different interest groups. And young people have an interest group. And I'm not a youth worker, I've never been a youth worker, but I come from a youth work field. And the field I'm in is completely left-wing and completely woke and has fallen for this ideology. And therefore, we're indoctrinating young people all the time. And the BBC do it. And then going back to Black Lives Matter in the summer last year, what information did we get from the BBC about Black Lives Matter, the organisation? Where was the Panorama special? Where was the documentary explaining who they are, how they were created, why they were created, who runs it, the difference between American politics and British politics? There was nothing, absolutely nothing from the BBC. And that's worse than being biased. For me, that was a dereliction of their duty to inform the British public on the most important matter we had in last year, apart from COVID.
Yeah, absolutely with you. And on the flip side of that, do you feel as though scrapping the free license fee for the over 75s, was that the last straw for a lot of people when it comes to tolerating the BBC and its regressive form of taxation?
You would have to ask again, how can I speak about over 75, because I'm not one. And the people I speak to haven't really mentioned that as an issue. I've seen it on Twitter, but people I speak to don't mention it as an issue. What they do mention is the criminalisation. That's what people mention to me. And there's lots of people over 75 who can afford the licence fee. So just because you're over 75 doesn't mean you're poor. The BBC will be doing this, but should have been doing it a long time ago. The licence fee, forget the criminalisation part of it, which is immoral. The whole model of claiming a licence fee is so out of date in today's world that it cannot last much longer. Even if we weren't arresting people and sending them to jail, it cannot last. Not when you can get everything you want on the internet, you can download stuff, you can buy dodgy boxes now that can get you free Netflix, and yet you're forcing people to go out and spend 150, 60, 70 pound a year on a license fee. It just doesn't make any sense. And that pot of money is going to shrink year by year and year by year. And at the next license fee review, which I think is in about 6-7 years time, that has to be what is discussed, because I cannot see how it goes on. Regardless, even if the BBC was an amazing institute that wasn't woke, that wasn't talking down to us, even if it was still perfect, this would still be an issue. It cannot last in today's age.
100%. So a final question for you, Nick. Do you feel as though the electorate in Manchester feel left behind when it comes to political coverage of today's events?
I think a lot of the population of Greater Manchester feel ignored. And I don't think that's a BBC thing. I think that came across in Brexit. It's the same feeling that, who are we? The amount of young people I've spoken to on the streets over 2 decades, and you're talking about their future and what they want to be, and they say, I want to be nothing. I say, no, you must want to be something. Even if you want to be a professional footballer, which you're not going to get, but even if you say that, at least that's a dream. It's an aspiration of something in the future. But for them to go, nothing, don't want to be anything, it breaks your heart. And that is something we need to do as a society to inspire all young people to want to achieve and to have, we might think they're silly dreams. It doesn't matter. You need a dream to get you up in the morning, to make you go to school, to make you work hard, to make you to want that tomorrow will come along. If tomorrow's the same as today and today's rubbish, why would you want tomorrow to come along? And that's what we need to do. And again, as a public broadcaster, that should be a big part of the BBC, is making sure we're inspiring not just young people, but everybody, inspiring them to want the best, to be the best, to be proud that you're British, to be proud that you're lucky that you were born or you live in this country. That's what the BBC should be for.
I love that, honestly, giving people a sense of purpose, duty to their community, all of that. Fantastic. Nick Buckley, MBE, thank you so much for coming on Defund the BBC.
Thank you.